What's wrong with this picture? And don't say the 32X because it's highly underrated. Wires are what's wrong with this picture. They're so 19th century. Why must video game controllers be plugged into video game consoles with wires, which get in the way? You can catch your foot on one, the dog could eat them, you can strangle dolphins with them. Wires are a problem, although they are extremely reliable, but that's a different story. If you want to get rid of wires, say you want to put your Sega Genesis 20 feet away from you, well, you'd either have to get a very long extension cable or get the wireless controller for the Sega Genesis, which looks a lot like that and has no wires. Ooh. How many of you just jumped out of your seat and said, I want one? This is the battery-powered MK1629 for the Sega Genesis. It also works with Sega 32X games, has 6 buttons and no wires. But it does require you to use this, the MK1648. This plugs into the front of your Sega Genesis and takes the signal from the wireless controller. So it must be pointed at it. This does not work in the same way as a Xbox 360 or PlayStation 3 controller, which can be used in a separate room. This needs a direct line of sight. But check this out, it works with 2 controllers. So you plug this into the front of your Sega Genesis like this. This is not battery powered. This is, and there you have it, a wireless Sega Genesis or Sega 32X. So you can put this far, far away and play video games on it as long as these two can read each other. I've got 2 of them here. These were donated by Frank in California, and you can use these together for 2-player games. There's a switch on the bottom that tells which one is player 1 and which one is player 2. This uses 2 AAA batteries, which I gave you a peek at earlier. They fit in there. Doesn't rumble or anything. And there's your start button. It's even got this button up here, the mode button. My review of Rocket Knight Adventures on the Sega Genesis is played using this controller so that you can see how it works. It works exactly like a regular Sega Genesis controller. In fact, this feels a lot more like a standard 3-button Sega Genesis controller than some of the smaller 6-button models. It is thicker though, so when you're holding it in your hand, if you play a lot of Genesis games, you'll notice it's just a bit thicker here. But overall still feels pretty much the same, and the weight and the feel and the texture itself are very similar to the standard Sega Genesis controller. D-pad is also extremely similar. For those of you who think most of the 6-button controllers are a bit small from Sega for the Genesis, this might be a good option for you. Just make sure you get this thing or it won't work. You cannot use this without that. I assume the next logical question anybody might have is, will it work on the Model 2 Sega Genesis as well as the Model 1? Yes, it does. Let's take a look at that. The spacing between these 2 plugs is identical on the Model 2 Sega Genesis. Can you say I'm playing Thunder Force 3 wirelessly on my Sega Genesis? Yes, you can, if you have one of these things. And Thunder Force 3. Let's just get a close-up look at that, because I love Thunder Force 3. Even though most Sega Genesis controllers will work with the Atari 2600, this one will not, because you cannot fit that on back of the Atari 2600. Because of the 2 plugs. Now maybe if you break one of the plugs off, but that would be insane. Why would you do that? It works really well on the Sega Genesis Model 1 and Model 2. But what about the Model 3? Here's the Model 3 Sega Genesis, which also works with the wireless adapter, because it too has the same spacing between the plugs. There you go. Bet you didn't think I had one of these. And remember, no matter what Sega Genesis you have, or if you're playing games on the 32X, the wireless controller will work for you. And it works well as long as it has a direct line of sight to the Sega Genesis. That's the wireless controller. And that's 21st century technology, even though it came out in the 20th century. It's future thinking from Sega. Oh no, I'm caught by the wire. Oh, I can't escape. Boo, boo.